What's up guys, Lifting here. Incursion League is just around the corner, and as per usual I am bringing you 5 solid League starter builds to try out or get inspired by for Path of Exile's latest Challenge League. And just a quick disclaimer before we begin, while there have been tons of skill balance changes, I won't recommend any skill or build that hasn't been properly tried or tested yet for this video. The builds you see featured here have all been selected because, if executed correctly, they will ensure you a good start to the league, as opposed to you trying something out that may or may not work as well as you had hoped. I'm imagining I will have plenty of opportunity to showcase these builds in a week or two once we've gotten into the league. So let's get started. Build number 1 on the list is an Earthquake Marauder by Angry Roleplayer. Earthquake received buffs in 3.3, the damage went up and the duration between the initial hit and the afterquake went down, which is a good thing. Besides, there's now also Vol Earthquake in the game, and with the changes to Vol skill gems, that means that a Vol Earthquake gem provides both the regular and Vol version of the skill, as in like a 2-for-1 kind of deal. So that means that in many cases you will no longer need to have separate Vol skill gem setups on top of your other skill gems of similar type. Angry Roleplayer is resurrecting the old Earthquake build with this guide, and he does that very well. You play it as a Juggernaut for that extra thickness, as being tanky is the new skinny, and while it's not exactly a boss killer per se, it kills them anyway, so yeah. And I hope this doesn't come off as boastful, but I'm actually one of, if not the first actually, to ever release an Earthquake guide. Back in the day when the skill was originally released, it used to be so strong and was for a long time the guide I would refer people to if they were to ask for a recommendation. However, the build was eventually nerfed several times, and in the end the Earthquake meta just, well, kinda died down. However, with the recent buffs, I believe that there is once again a good reason to revisit Earthquake. Fortunately, Angry Roleplayer has written a great guide for you guys to follow in case you are interested. Not to mention, he looks like a sexy vampire. Am I right, boys? The second build on the list is a Blade Vortex Witch build by Dirtydot. Blade Vortex has for a long time been an all-time favorite skill of mine. However, over the course of time it received various nerfs that eventually made it feel less enjoyable to use. It was still good, it just felt a bit off due to its low hit frequency and the animation of the blade spinning around you. However, that has for a big part changed and been corrected in 3.3. Not only has the hit frequency gone up, you now also only have to keep up 10 blades at a time, removing the need for spell echo, which in turn leaves room for another damage dealing support gem, and that is a pretty big buff by itself. Besides that, it also received buffs to the critical strike chains for some weird reason, and there's now also a Vol Blade Vortex skill gem, which sounds and looks pretty good, but who really knows, we'll have to see once we get it started with the league. Overall, Blade Vortex is in an amazing state right now, and the one I recommend that you guys check out to begin with is Dirtydot's Triple Herald Elementalist Blade Vortex build. And I actually showcased this build not too long ago too, but I just had to do it again for this video as it doesn't really get more relevant than this. The Elementalist Ascendancy allows you to efficiently run all 3 Herald skills to help scale the damage of Blade Vortex, while also providing lots of generic damage, area of effect, and elemental damage penetration. Overall, the Elementalist is a solid choice for Blade Vortex, but there are of course also many other ways you can do this. The third build I present to you today is my own Warchief Totem, Champion, Uberlab, and Boss Farmer build guide. And I must admit I'm starting to have trouble coming up with something original to say in terms of presenting this guide, as it has been a staple for the many past leagues and videos, simply due to the fact that it's a solid, tested, and powerful build that hasn't really changed much over a long course of time. And without sounding too cocky, sitting here in my Ferrari and I don't know where I was going with that. But I honestly believe this setup to be one of the absolute best League starter builds currently available, due to how naturally the build progresses into late game without requiring a huge budget and without overcomplicating things. So if you're new to the game, or if you have a friend that's new to the game, this would probably be a good build to recommend to them to start out with, for instance. To be fair though, there are faster map clear builds than this. The intention with this type of build is to have a solid boss farmer, and it does especially well as an uber lab farmer due to high regen, good damage mitigation and good single target damage. This build is recommendable for any type of player, beginner or veteran, but more so if your goal is to grind the labyrinth to build up currency as opposed to chaining maps all day long. And now that we're talking about my own builds, I do also once again recommend my Frostbolt Totem Hierophant, which takes us to build number 4 on the list. Similar to the Warchief build, I have recommended this build many times over as it has remained a solid and cheap League starter. Compared to the Warchief Totem build, this build however focuses on clearing maps fast to farm for currency instead of killing bosses. As a matter of fact, it's a pretty mediocre at best boss killer, and if that's important to you, I would recommend something else. Since 3.2's Ascendancy buffs, the Hierophant has remained as one of the currently strongest Ascendancies, and if you want a fast map clearing build on a budget, then you can't go entirely wrong with this setup. The fifth and final build on the list is for you guys who enjoy the Summoner playstyle. The build is by Catharsis, and it is a skeleton warrior necromancer. Summoners are currently very strong in Path of Exile, and especially skeleton summoners have been gaining attention over the past few patches in due part to some very significant buffs that basically took them from 0 to hero in a short period of time, whereas otherwise skeletons for the most part had been something the community had almost given up on ever becoming something actually usable as a main skill. With these changes, we've seen lots of skeleton summoners popping up on the radar, and this is one of them. Catharsis skeleton build works great for both mapping and boss farming. It receives some very impressive damage numbers, but also retains solid defenses. Another cool thing for this build in 3.3 is that with the new Vol skill gem changes, your Summon Skeletons gem is now replaced with Vol Summoned Skeletons, which eventually means you might end up with a super beefy 6-linked army of skeletons at your command. This is something I've always wanted to try myself, but until now it just didn't make too much sense to reserve 2 6-links for something like that. But that's no longer necessary, you will only need 1 now. I can totally see this being super hilarious and very powerful. So before we end, as per tradition I guess, I do of course have a bonus build I want to feature. And it is Nedieth's Essence Drain and Contagion Trickster. Essence Drain and Contagion builds is nothing new, but they are still incredibly strong and holds great potential as League starters, and it would feel weird not recommending one now. I haven't done that in my past League starter videos just because I didn't want to, but now I do. And I want to emphasize, this may be a great League starter, but it may not be the best beginner build. And I say this because this type of setup can feel a bit weak early until later levels, and it has a certain threshold that it needs to reach before it starts to feel good, and it really requires you to know where you need to go at a certain time in the skill tree and so forth. But if you aren't completely new to the game and you manage to reach that point, it really has the potential to take off and become an amazing map clearer with good boss killing potential. And Nedieth's version here allows you to start out cheap, but has expensive endgame recommendations if you can manage to farm the currency for it. And I know Nedieth have killed everything up to and including Uber Elder, and that by itself should go to prove the power of the build. And so those were the 6 builds I wanted to show to you today, guys. All solid League starter choices for you to choose from. For the next video, I am expecting to showcase many of the rebalance skills, so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in watching, then remember to subscribe to my channel. Also check out our Discord for Path of Exile help and discussions. I also have a Patreon page if you feel like checking that out. If you have any questions, find me live on Twitch or ask them below. Also, I am curious, and I'm sure everyone else is too, about what build you guys are going with for 3.3. Let us know down in the comments below. Best of luck in Incursion League, guys. Thank you for watching, and bros,
do you even nerd?